The moment the news alert flashed across her phone, Amara's hands went numb. Korean tech billionaire Han Jae-min had just called off the most talked-about wedding in the country, minutes before walking down the aisle. The world saw drama. Amara saw danger, because she knew the one person who could make him do that. Their daughter, Amara Reed, stood at a sink in a tiny Atlanta apartment. Warm water running over chipped dishes. Outside, kids shouted in the parking lot. Inside, the cartoons on the old TV flickered in the next room, where a little girl with brown skin and soft black hair sat cross-legged on the floor, humming to herself. Her name was Hannah, after the man who had never met her. Amara's phone buzzed again. A photo popped up in the headline. Han Jae-min, in a crisp suit, standing alone in front of a sea of cameras. Expression hard but eyes dark with something else. The caption screamed about a cancelled wedding, a runaway groom, a scandal. The world loved a breakup. They did not know about the quiet woman 3 continents away who carried his past in her arms every night. Years ago, Amara had walked beside him as his wife. Back then, she was a marketing consultant flown to Seoul for a short project. He was the rising star of the tech world, too busy for sleep and too sharp for small talk. Their first meeting had been brief and professional, but he noticed how she asked questions nobody else asked. She noticed how he stayed after meetings to push chairs back in place, even though he owned the building. The city became their witness. Street food under neon lights, late-night walks along the river, shared coffee in the cold when their schedules barely aligned. They learned to talk with eyes when words were too slow. He had seen her as more than her skin, her accent, her foreign passport. She had seen him as more than a bank account and a last name. They married quietly, without cameras, in a small ceremony where her mother cried and his father did not attend. Pressure arrived soon after. The board wanted a partner with the right background for a man expected to lead a global empire. Investors wanted an image that looked familiar to them. Articles started talking about him as the son of Korea, the face of the future, the perfect heir. Amara, a black woman from Atlanta, did not fit the picture they wanted to sell. Criticism grew sharp and constant. They were whispered about at events, stared at in elevators, dissected online by strangers with loud opinions and quiet hearts. Jae-min tried to shield her, to push back. He fired people who'd crossed the line, cut contracts with partners who'd said the wrong things. But power is a heavy thing to carry, and every fight took pieces of him. Eventually the pressure found the weak spots in their marriage, long nights at the office, missed calls, arguments that started over small things and ended with old hurts. When she found out she was pregnant, she told him with shaking hands and a hopeful heart. For a moment, joy cut through everything. Then reality returned like a cold wind. His board had just warned him that one more scandal, one more headline they could not control, might cost him his position. They framed it as duty to employees, duty to the future of the company. Duty, the word that broke them. They separated with hearts still in love but lives out of sync. Lawyers called it a clean divorce. Nothing about it felt clean. She left with no money beyond what she had earned herself, and a quiet promise to protect the child growing inside her. She did not tell him when she realized the stress and the gossip would turn their daughter into a weapon for his enemies. She chose to disappear instead. Now Hannah was 4 years old with curious eyes and a laugh that sounded like both of them. Amara dried her hands and walked to the living room. Hannah looked up with that bright, unfiltered joy children carried so easily. She waved a crayon drawing in the air, a picture of 3 stick figures holding hands under a sun. Amara's throat tightened when she saw the small figure in the middle. With dark, straight lines for hair, Tana always drew a father she had never met. On the TV, a reporter's voice rose with excitement about the cancelled wedding. The bride was the daughter of an old money family, a match everyone had called perfect. Amara reached for the remote, but before she could mute the sound, the screen showed Jae-min's face again, walking past cameras, jaws set, ignoring shouted questions about why. The next moment, her phone rang. The number was international but familiar in a way that made her heart slam against her ribs. She had deleted his contact long ago. But some numbers you never forget, she answered slowly. The voice on the other end had not changed. Calm, controlled, a little tired. He said her name like it had been sitting behind his teeth for years, waiting. He told her the truth. He had known about Hannah for a year. A tax document, an old message, one detail that finally connected. He had not reached out because he believed she had chosen a life away from his world. He did not want to drag her and their daughter back into the fire. But when he finally saw a recent photo online, shared by a mutual friend by accident, he realized how much he had already missed out today. At the wedding rehearsal, someone had slipped a file into his hand, a report about a planned move by his enemies. They had found out about Hannah. They were going to use her as leverage to control him after the marriage, to own him with threats to the one person who mattered more than his fortune. In that moment, standing at the altar, he had a choice between a safe image and a true life. He cancelled the wedding. The headlines called it chaos. He called it the first honest decision he had made in years. He told Amara he was already on a plane. He did not ask for permission to care. He did ask for permission to help. Amara listened, heart split between anger and relief, between all the years he had missed and the man he was trying to be now. She thought of late bills, long shifts, and nights spent worrying about illnesses without good insurance. She thought of Hannah's drawings. She thought of why she had left in the first place, to protect a child from being used as a tool. Now danger had found him anyway. By the time evening fell, a black car pulled into the cracked lot of her apartment complex. Curtains shifted. Neighbors watched. Tech articles online tracked the jet's path. Gossip channels guessed everything except the truth. When Jae-min stepped out, he was not the polished billionaire from magazine covers. His tie was missing, his hair slightly out of place. His eyes raw with exhaustion, and something like hope dotted her door. He did not speak first. He simply looked at her, taking in the lines of stress that had deepened since he had last traced her. Faced with gentle hands, she saw the weight he carried too, etched into his shoulders. This time, she held the power. She could send him away. She could protect her peace by keeping walls high. Or she could choose a different kind of courage, one that did not forget the past, but did not let fear script the future. She stepped aside and let him in. When Anna ran into the room moments later, small feet slapping against old wood, she stopped at the sight of the stranger. Jae-min knelt down slowly, his billion-dollar hands suddenly unsure of where to rest. He introduced himself as a friend first, not as a father. He let Hannah decide if she would come closer. Children read truth faster than adults. She studied him, head tilted. Something in his eyes made her relax. She moved forward and showed him her drawing with 3 stick figures. For the first time, the picture made sense to all 3 of them. In the days that followed, Jae-min moved meetings, shifted security, and quietly built a shield around them. Not with noise, not with headlines, but with lawyers, safe homes, and trusted people. The world still talked about a rich man who cancelled a wedding. They did not see the man reading bedtime stories on a worn couch, or the woman who set new terms for any life they might share. Amara made it clear. She would not be owned, bought, or used as an accessory to his power. If he wanted to be in Hannah's life, it would be as a present father, not a distant name. He listened. He agreed. He let her lead in the spaces where she had carried the weight alone for years, in quiet moments. He would watch them together and realize that all his wealth had never given him what this tiny apartment had held in his absence. Laughter, struggle, and love that did not care about last names. One line settled over his heart like a promise he would spend the rest of his life proving true. A real father is not the man who gives his child a famous name. He is the man who shows up when the truth finally knocks. If this story touched you, share where you are watching from and what you think about his choice. And subscribe for more cinematic stories about hidden sacrifices, second chances, and the people who choose love over image.